Hi and welcome.
Hi
I'm,
there. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
this is great. Thank you. So, oh my gosh, where to even start with your journey? I guess let's start at the beginning, but yeah, let's start there. I mean, why not? That's where your journey started. And that's where I think we should start.
There you go.
So tell us about, because 4 marriages
Yeah.
and a lot of ups and downs and challenges. And so let's start with marriage number one, I guess.
Sure. Well, I'll just sort of give your listeners a little bit of background. So, my name is Shannon Klent, and I am a happiness coach. And my business was called Finally Effing Happy because I am finally effing happy. It has been a journey to get here, and the joy that I experience today is hard won. And so I celebrate it as often as I can. And
so beautiful.
Part of that journey for me definitely has been around relationships and intimacy and marriage and partnership and what all that looks like. And I, as a little girl, I did not say, oh, I want to be married 4 times, right? Like this was not a goal I set out for. And it is just part of my story. And for a long time, well, not a long time, but there was a part of my journey where the piece of shame that my story didn't look like everybody else's or the typical story. I mean, my story didn't even look like you get married, you get divorced, and then you find the perfect second marriage, right? And so just really accepting that this is my journey. And I'm always a big proponent of, okay, well, is there some way I can put my experience to help, to use? And if I can, in that case, it's great. So let's do that. And I will tell you that my journey in relationships has been directly proportionate to my journey in trauma healing. And I don't need to talk a lot about the trauma, but I will tell you that I am an adult survivor of childhood trauma, and learning to be in relationship and learning to feel both physically safe and emotionally safe was a multi-decade journey. And in the process of that multi-decade journey, I got married and divorced and married and divorced and married and divorced. And the good news is that each relationship did get healthier. That's the good news, to where I am today, like crazy happy and in love. And we're coming up on our 8th wedding anniversary, and 12 years together. So yeah. And that first marriage was right out of, I finished my master's degree when I was 21, or I just turned 22. I'd finished my master's degree when I was quite young. And I just ended up marrying the guy I was dating at the time. Like there was no, it was just like the next indicated step.
I'm sorry, hold on just 1 second.
Yeah.
I just have to, my laundry's going. I'm turning it off because it's driving me crazy. Hold on a second.
Whatever you need.
And like, I want to hear because I'm like so interested.
You're so great.
Sorry about that. So oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was really young, and it was just sort of the next indicated step. And I knew when I was getting married, like, I probably shouldn't be doing this. I'm not sure that this is going to last.
So I guess you felt it in your body, right? Like, did you feel it, or did you think it in your head, or how did you know that this was not going to really last?
I kind of knew it in my head, but I was like, I mean, isn't this kind of what you're, just sort of the next indicated step? I'd finished my master's degree, and this was a person I had been dating for a while. And so it was like, okay, so this is just what you do now. You get married, and, maybe for a little while you enjoy, I was living in London at the time, and just enjoy the city and being young, and then you have babies, and this is just sort of what you do. But no, it didn't last very long. It was only a couple of years. And that was crushing. So that the end of that relationship was devastating for me. I was young and really felt like the world was coming to an end. So like if you're young and trying to figure out relationships, when relationships end, it really isn't the end of the world. Like it's not. We all move on. Well, hopefully we all move on. And yeah, and that relationship corresponded with, so I got pregnant with my son, and I left my husband when I was pregnant with my son, because I just knew in my gut that he was cheating on me. And so I packed my bags. We were living in High River, Alberta, Canada at the time. I packed a couple of bags, emptied our little measly 20-something, bank account, and took a Greyhound bus to my sister's house in Montana. Think about it now, and it's just crazy. And then moved back to Los Angeles, which is where I'm originally from, and, began a rebuilding journey there. And that was, and I didn't date at that point. I mean, partially because I was a single parent to an infant in Los Angeles and working full time. And that was just a crazy season of my life. And, but also too, I was heartbroken. My life did not look the way that I thought or wanted it to look. I, through a series of events with my son, knew that the most important thing I could do in my lifetime was to raise a man who wasn't angry. And I knew I couldn't fake, like your kids know, they just know. Whatever you think you're faking that your kids don't know, they know. And I knew I couldn't fake it. And I had to do something about my anger. And not that I was a screaming, rageful person. I wasn't, but I was a seething, self-pitying kind of anger. And yeah. And so I started a variety of different therapies to start to let go of my anger so I could hopefully ultimately raise a man who wasn't angry and mean. And that was a journey in and of itself. But it was that journey and getting into the variety of therapies that I got into that really began my healing journey around relationships.
It takes a lot to, you could go either way at that point, right? You
Sure.
could go to the self-pity and poor me, poor me, poor me, or you chose to rise up and really model that also for your son, your child.
And say, what's next? I very much want to be the kind of person that believes love wins.
Yeah.
And so if I want to believe that, well, then I have to try and live that. It's not just something that you talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about what, your actions meet up with your words.
Yeah.
So you did your self-healing, what were a couple things just quickly, or you just tell me like a little, if you want to share.
Sure.
Some therapies that you did to just kind of get yourself past that, devastation of being cheated.
Yeah, no, it was devastating. So, I did regular sort of talk therapy. I did do some hypnosis at the time. I took a baseball bat to a padded room. I've experienced a little primal scream therapy. I would encourage anyone to do a little primal scream therapy. I think there are a few things more wonderful than that. I think we all need to scream at some level and to have a safe and appropriate place to just let it rip. Was really great. And, but I also do, so it was around that time that I came across what's really the foundation for a lot of my work today. And so I came across Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication, and Marshall Rosenberg passed away several years ago himself, but he was a child of the 1960s and came up with a method of communication that is really heart connected and empathy centered. And so I started reading his books and going to many of his trainings, and there's an entire body of work in his field around self-empathy and how to provide myself with the empathy. You know, we run around wanting everyone else to hear us. We run around wanting to be seen. I want to be heard. Well, there's a little voice inside your head right now that wants to be heard by you, and it's our job as adults, it's our job as adult women to listen to that voice and to give it some space and to lovingly say, what is it are you trying to tell me? Because if I don't listen to it, it's no one else's job really to listen to it. It's my job to listen to it first.
Yeah.
And that's true for my husband. It's not my husband's job to be the first person to listen to it. It's not even my therapist's job. Like it's my job to listen to it first. And so I started doing this nonviolent communication and a very committed self-empathy practice. I also started what's today called emotional freedom technique, or tapping, which is a form of acupressure while focusing on a particular emotion or situation or memory to move the intensity of that emotion from something usually very elevated to something more manageable. And you put a lot of those things together. And I started on a pretty substantial healing journey, but then still found myself in a very codependent relationship. And I guess the progress in that, the journey in that, was that it was with somebody who was very much a good person, but was just as sort of emotionally unhealthy in some levels and ways that I was. And so there was a lot of codependency. And, you know, I've read all the, you know, Codependent No More and Road Less Traveled. And that's when I delved into that area of the world to better understand how to be in relationship and be a partner in a way that has some equality, and not so much in terms of tasks and chores, but in terms of emotional presence.
So, I mean, so that's happening in your second marriage, that, right, that you're talking
Yes.
about? That happened. Okay. And when you entered, I just, as a single person, you know, when you were entering into that marriage of the second marriage, because you obviously had done some work, you already started cleaning out your closet, so to say, or whatever you want to call it. You know, you're getting unloading.
Yeah.
So when you met your second husband, did you feel like, ooh, maybe this is still not right? Or did you feel like this was more right? Or did you feel like it was right just now? What was your feeling, if you can remember?
Well, I knew it was more right. I really sort of naively believed that love could fix all things. And love wins, and love is a wonderful thing. And love doesn't necessarily fix all things. And so love doesn't necessarily fix codependent behavior. And that was a very painful reality. And I will just speak for, you know, my side of that relationship. And I think too, you know, we get sort of a grandiosity when we've done our therapies and we've done some of our self-healing work, like, well, I know myself so well that this is going to be fine. And, you know, there's not a lot of, there's a lot of self-will in that, I guess is what I'll say. there's a lot of me driving the bus in that, as opposed to creating spaciousness for, I don't know, something more divine to be created in that.
So was your second marriage, was it a long marriage, or was it?
It was on and off for about 6 years. Yeah.
And
So it
it
was
just
on and
because
off for
you're
about
trying
6
to put that effort into it, or hoping it was
Correct.
gonna make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that love. It's that love that we all want, need, and desire in this world.
Sure.
And yeah, no, it's there. But so, okay,
Sure.
so then you got divorced from your second husband.
Mhm.
And did you do more self-growth at that point, or had you continued your journey with self-growth?
I had continued my journey of self-growth throughout that entire period of time, doing a variety of different therapies with different people. I had also moved from Los Angeles to Bellingham, Washington, and and after that, it was sort of the, beginning of internet dating. It wasn't the beginning of internet dating, but it wasn't what it was today, right? I mean, Match didn't exist, and I don't know what else didn't exist, but it was still sort of the beginning. And I had a couple of girlfriends who literally, like 6 months afterwards, were like, nope, we're dusting this off and you are getting out there. You're gonna go. And they were like at my house setting up an account for me. One of my friends gifted me 3 months to I don't know what website. And I started dating, just dating. And that was a really good experience. It really was. It was a good experience. And, I don't think a lot of people, well, no one taught me how to date, right? Like, no one says, here's how you date. You go to dinner, you pay attention, you just, pay attention to how he treats the waiter, because one day you'll be the waiter. Like, truly, it's such an eye opener, like how they treat people. Just pay attention. Are they on time? Are they not on time? Do they communicate? Do they ask questions? Do they not ask questions? Just pay attention. And if after that first evening that it's not your cup of tea, then just graciously, thank you so much for dinner. It was so great. I really appreciate your time. It was nice to meet you. And I just don't feel like this is a fit for me. And I just wish you the very best. Thanks for your time. Peace out. Like, that's it. It's not a big to do. It's not, let's analyze his qualities while we're analyzing our childhood to figure out if we're so broken that we can't actually be in a relationship. No, it's not. And
it shouldn't be forced.
Right.
Yeah.
And that, maybe you end up going on 2 or 3 dates, or maybe you end up dating someone for 6 weeks. And if at some point it's just not, it doesn't, whatever, right? It's really okay. As long as you're kind and respectful and they're kind and respectful. Like, we're all grown-ups here. To be like, hey, that was great. You're lovely. I wish you the best.
Mm-hmm.
I had one instance with somebody who I had chatted with for quite some time via phone and email, and we didn't live in the same town. And so it took us quite some time till we met in person. And when I left to go back home, I don't even remember the circumstances, but he left me a voicemail that was just very snippy and I just no, there was nothing. It was just a call back to him that said, hey, I got your voicemail. Thank you. And yeah, it was nice to meet you. And this isn't the right fit for me. And I just wish you the very best. And he did ask why. And I said, oh, yeah, no, I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who ever thinks it's okay to use that tone of voice to anybody, especially me. And so like, and he was just so flabbergasted because a lot of people think it's okay to talk like that. Cool. Oh my gosh, if that's okay to you to talk that way, awesome. I'm just not the right girl for you.
Yeah.
Because I don't ever want to be talked to that way. I will never talk to you that way.
Yeah.
And so it's not. And there are other people out there where that is okay. Great, good, fine, have at it. You know, I use this phrase a lot, like, you know, like they like chocolate and I like vanilla. It's not that big of a deal. It's just different values, different okaynesses. It's fine.
So it's interesting because I feel like you live through that fear that I feel like everybody, you know, feels. Every single person, I should say, which as everybody at some point in their life. You know, oh my gosh, I'm going to get married, then I get divorced, and then I get married, and this is my person, and then wait, oh no, I'm getting divorced again from them. And then, you know, I mean, I'm sure you thought, at least maybe not the first one, but the other two,
Sure.
you thought were your person, and how it's so scary. And so what kind of, I guess, what would you tell somebody that is dating now and has that fear of that happening? Now, since you're living on the other side in a beautiful marriage, it's taken, you know, 4 times, which is, again, like you said, is not your ideal scenario.
No, but it is my story. And
yeah.
I would say, first of all, have fun. That would be the first thing that I would say is have some fun. It's just fun. Have fun. A date's a date. It's not the rest of your life. It's a date. Have some fun. So we'll start with that.
I love that. Can I just like order
the cheesecake, have the coffee. It's really okay. Have some fun.
That's fabulous.
So I'd start there. Second of all, I think the piece really around, I just don't know that there needs to be quite so much analysis.
That's interesting.
Right. I don't know that there needs to be so much analysis. So depending on, like the reason why I'm sort of blah, 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 is because it does sort of depend on your age, in the sense of when you're in your 20s, you are still continuing to form your values and getting to know what is most important to you. And you think, you know, but really they continue to morph and grow and evolve. And so when you're a little older, as I was when I was in that dating period of my life, it was really quick for me to identify with somebody where our values were different and when our core values were very different. And it was very easy for me at that time to just say, like I said, it was lovely to meet you. Thanks for your time. I wish you the very best in life, and move on. Because that was just not, I could identify that pretty quickly. And so, and it was never a question of, well, could I put up with that? Could I fix that? Can I settle for that? Right? Like, no need to settle, no need to fix, no need to put up with. And this idea that relationship is hard, my relationship today is not hard. It's not hard. It's really joyful. Now, there's stuff that he does that is, you know, somewhat irritating at times. And I'm sure there's stuff that I do that's irritating to him. But my relationship is not hard at all. And so I like to float that out there, because we hear a lot that, you know, you have to be willing to put in the work, and, you know, and maybe I put in the pre-work from previous marriages. I don't know, but it's not hard. And the other piece that I would say is the thing that's really different for me today, which was part of my healing journey, is that God forbid something happened to my relationship today, and I don't want to test the universe in this. But I know I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be emotionally okay. I'm going to be spiritually okay. I'm going to be financially, logistically okay. Like, I'm going to be okay. And I think that at an emotional and spiritual level, I didn't know that before. And I had a lot of work because I wasn't okay with me for a really long time based on where I came from. I wasn't okay with me for a long time. And I had to really get okay with me. And so whatever you need to do in your own journey to really look at your own stuff. I felt broken for a long time in my life. And I don't feel broken anymore. And that's part of being in the healthy, successful relationship that I'm in today.
So I'm going to just go back to your storyline for just a minute. Your third marriage that you got into, because we just have to touch on each one of them because there's such a big learning lesson, I think, in each one, and a beautiful story. So your second husband, you realized at some point that this was just not the marriage for you. So you filed for divorce, or the marriage ended. And then you entered your third marriage. And was that through online dating? Was that through just?
So I met him online dating. And I think the other piece of advice I would give someone who's dating today, take a really long time. Take a long time. There's no rush. A friend of mine early on had said that her rule of thumb was to give it 3 years. And I'm like, that is a long time I know, look at your eyes. You're like, I'm not going to date somebody for 3 years. Put a ring on it, baby.
Yeah, where's the song? Come on, Beyonce. If you like it, you should put a ring on it, right?
Absolutely. And my husband, my now husband, proposed almost 3 years to the day from when I met him. And I never told him that story. It just played out that way because, and I'm not saying everyone has to wait 3 years, but what I'm saying is that in 3 years, you get to know, because you're on your best behavior and they're on their best behavior for a while. And then you have to go through all kinds of firsts. You have to go through your first holidays, and then you have to go through sort of your first arguments, and then you have to go through your first financial things together. And then in our case, we went through our first surgery, and then we went through our first, things going on with our kids, and you watch and you observe, do they really walk their talk? And I think that people don't intend to, I don't think most people intend to misrepresent themselves. And maybe I'm being naive in that, but it's just how I like to view the world on the positive side of things. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. But the idea that I don't think people intend to misrepresent themselves. So when people say, no, for example, I too am familiar with Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication. And then it's like, well, awesome. So this person must be a very heart-centered, peace-focused kind of person. Okay, so let's take some time and be in situations and see if that's true. I've got to be in a handful of situations to see if they really walk their talk, if they really are who they think they are. But it goes the other way around too. Like, am I really who I think I am? Right. And really some of the best advice that was ever given to me was, stop looking for Mr. Right and try and be, the right girl. Right. So like, if I want to be respected, then I have to be respectful. Right. And, if I want my husband to sort of take on a masculine role, well, then I need to act like a lady. Right. And so these ideas of those things that I said I wanted, I needed to bring to the table.
Yeah.
And that's so much easier said than done.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very easy. I mean, people say that they lose themselves in relationships or they, but I guess if you know who you are and figuring out, and it's such a journey. You think you might know you want one thing and then it's really another thing, right? And that's what life is, figuring out what you want.
Right. And it really is about, what are you willing to bring to the table yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Yeah.
so, and the reason why I say all that is that in that third marriage, we moved in together very quickly. It was about 6 months, I think. And yeah, I would give it more time. And really that third marriage was just, you know, he liked chocolate, I like vanilla in the end, and hadn't given it enough time to figure that out.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And it was really, you know, it was nothing a lot more dramatic than that, than two very, very different people. We had a lot of surface similarities.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were things we enjoyed doing socially and a lot of surface similarities, but at a deeper level, not so much.
And that's what I think we're finding out with COVID in a way, is that when you would take away all those social activities that people do and all those other things, and you're stuck in a house together, it's, do you still enjoy being around this person? Do you still enjoy doing nothing with this person? Right. You know, was it that you enjoyed going out with your friends together and you guys were both social butterflies and you came back and talked about that day or whatever it was?
Right.
It's
right.
Yeah, you take away all those other things, and at the end of the day, if it's just you and that other person on a desert island, you
right.
know,
right.
how would you guys want to hang out together?
Right. Well, and my husband and I today spend all the time together. We have a lot of fun. And he, yeah, so as I was coming out of that third marriage, I was somewhere around 40, and I basically just said, my son was a teenager, and I had so much regret about dragging my son through what I had dragged him through. And that's a podcast for a different time. He's a great kid today. He's in his mid-20s and on this journey himself. But I just knew that I wasn't going to get in a relationship. Like, I was done. I was so incredibly done. And I had said to a girlfriend at the time, in a very empowered way, okay, so I'm not going to date, like, at all. I also got really, really sick at the time. And she, when I told her I wasn't going to date for a year, she just started laughing. And I was like, what is so funny? I thought I had made sort of this empowered self-decision. And she says, oh, you're not in charge of that. Right? Like, again, this place of, we think we have so much control over this journey and decision. And like, we really don't. We really don't. And so, sure enough, about 3 weeks later, I mean, I was still like, after she had said that, I was like, well, that's fine. I mean, I'm still not going to date anybody. And about 3 weeks later, my now husband showed up on a total fluke, and he lived across the country, and there was no good reason why our relationship should work. It was really just, we enjoyed each other. It was fun. We got together every 4 to 6 weeks. I traveled a lot for my work at the time. He traveled a lot for his work. We both had kids. And so it was like, well, you know, if it, you know, we'll see each other when we see each other. And it's really, and like, here we are. What are we, 2021? So 11 years, 12 years later, just still crazy and in love, and coming up on 8 years of marriage. And
it's beautiful.
Yeah, totally blended. His bio kids, my bio kid, adopted kids, you know, step kids, fur kids, you know,
All
you
of the
name it, we
above.
have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's interesting when you're almost like not looking for love is kind of when it pops up,
It
right? Like,
is. And I think that, you know, the idea of, you know, taking all of those things you think you want and whatever your spiritual persuasion is, even if your spiritual persuasion is, you know, quantum physics and atheism, like whatever your spiritual persuasion is, to take those things that you think you want and then just give them over.
mhm.
Like, go, here you go. And then get busy living your life. Get busy doing things you enjoy, building friendships, diving into your career if that's meaningful to you, learning how to dance, traveling, like whatever your thing is, just
Live.
get busy living your life.
Yeah.
Because if the marriage is supposed to come, it'll come. If babies are supposed to come, they will come. If the white picket fence is supposed to be there, it will be.
Yeah.
And if it's not, well, are you willing to find the good and be the good in whatever your life looks like at that point?
Yeah. So beautifully said.
Because there's lots of connection, there's lots of joy, and that need to connect with other people, that need for intimacy. And I'm certainly not talking about sexual intimacy, I'm just talking about that need for intimacy that we all have, can get met in a lot of different ways if we're not in a primary partnership at the time. And so if you're missing that, be open-minded to, are there other ways I can meet that need for connection and intimacy? I really want to meet it this way with like the most perfect human being on the face of the planet, but that's not my reality right now. So how do I go about still getting that need, that emotion, that desire met?
Yeah, I mean, you have so much pressure with society, right? Of like, oh, you should be married by this age or around this time, or at least all your friends are. You know, you graduate college, you get a career or a job or whatever it is, and then you are like, okay, now I'm supposed to meet my person, get married, have kids. It's just the next, build a house. No one really builds houses these days.
But I get it.
1800s.
But you built a home together.
Yeah, you build a home together, buy a house, you know, have all these things that you're supposed to have the next stages. And when your life is not going that way, it can be a little scary at times. It may be going great in other areas. You might be enjoying your life so much, but you're like, wait, aren't I supposed to? It's like I'm going against the grain or something, right? And it's a scary moment or moments or so that happen where you're like, I'm not like everybody else, or I'm not doing it the same way as everyone else. And it can be scary at times, but like you said, you know, just enjoy those times that you're in that, instead of, I guess, living in that fear or living in that stress of like, I need to be getting married, I should be, you know, whatever it is, or have this relationship. Just like you said, living in that joy of you get to celebrate being where you are right now.
Yeah. And just, you know, as much as we can, let go of the analysis, because I don't know that the analysis actually helps at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
We spend so much time trying to figure us out and figure it out and figure them out and like, just go live your life. Just go find the things that you enjoy, have some fun, connect with people, make memories, take lots of pictures, put them in photo books. I know I'm crazy. Get a Shutterfly account, print your books. Trust me, when you're 70, you're really going to appreciate it. So fun. I mean, I'm not 70 yet. What do I know? But the idea of, you know, go create those memories for yourself, and you don't have to be in a primary intimate partnership in order to create those memories. And even though your memories might look different than, okay, so I'm there with 3 of my friends who are all couples, right? So there's 6 people in me. Hi. right? And can I be okay with that?
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by go do whatever work you got to do to really be okay with you. And then kind of trust the universe to take care of the rest.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you have to live with yourself. It's,
Yeah.
you know, you might be living with somebody else, but you have to live with yourself. I mean,
Absolutely.
you can't escape yourself. That's
Right.
for sure.
And the other piece of advice that I pass this along to a lot of people is if you're dating or new in a relationship, like it's nerve-wracking. You get butterflies. Do I call? Do I not call? Do I text? What do I say? You might, change your outfit 6 times before you decide what you're going to wear to go on that first date. Or maybe the whole part of you is like, just wear whatever I want. It doesn't matter. Right? Like whatever it is for you, don't miss it. Don't miss that fluttery newness, the excitement, because the truth is that doesn't happen very often in life. Like if you marry your high school sweetheart, you only got that once, right? You only got that season once. Now, if you've dated and been in a handful of relationships that were more serious, maybe you had that, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 times in your life. But like, don't miss that because you're all up in your head.
Yeah.
Because it is one of the sweetest, most precious things that is fleeting in our human experience.
So true.
Don't miss it.
Goes too fast.
Yep.
Definitely does. This was just so wonderful talking to you. Thank you for sharing and being open and vulnerable.
It's so fun. It's one of those things where truly, like I said at the beginning, never as a little girl was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be married 4 times. No, I had the vision that I was going to get married once and I was going to live in the same house and my kids were going to go to the same school. And that has so not been my story. And the places in my story that can be of help, that can be of use, then put it to good use, put it to help. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So I'm happy to share. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So, I mean, I know I'm going to want to connect with you more even after this, but like, where can everybody follow you on Instagram or just find you?
Yep. You can find me pretty much everywhere at FinallyEffingHappy, and effing is spelled EFFING. So I'm on Instagram at FinallyEffingHappy. I am on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, FinallyEffingHappy, but I also have a private Facebook group. It's free, FinallyEffingHappy. That's sort of where I hang out the most, is in my Facebook group. And you can email me at FinallyEffingHappy. I have a podcast, FinallyEffingHappy, and just really share. And FinallyEffingHappy is it's not about like Pollyanna happiness all the time. It's about all emotions are welcome.
Yeah.
Right. Because I am safe enough that I can all emotions are welcome. I don't like the icky emotions, but they're not going to take me out anymore. They don't have the power to take me under. Yeah. Right. I've been there. I've been to the dark side multiple times. And so, okay, here we go. And FinallyEffingHappy is about all emotions are welcome. And it is about this journey around, like I had done the therapies and I had read the books and downloaded the apps and all of those things, and still felt like something was missing. And so the work at FinallyEffingHappy really is about that heart-centered work.
Yeah.
That allows you to really get comfortable in your own skin. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so fabulous. I love the name of it, by the way.
It's very fun. It's a happy book.
Yeah.
But it's very real, right? So it's happy, but it's also very real. So tomorrow, I know this won't be published by tomorrow, but tomorrow, for example, I'm hosting a workshop called Transform Your Inner Critic. right? Because we all have that voice inside of our head. That's this nattering, let me tell you why you're not enough. Let me tell you, you're going against the grain. You're not married yet. You're right. But it's all okay. Right. And people say, well, be kind to yourself, or show yourself some more compassion, or don't be so hard on yourself. Great. How? Like, how?
The affirmations are just not enough.
Exactly. Like, affirmations for me certainly will only take me so far unless they're really authentic, really grounded in my own work and in my own words. And so I've taken this self-empathy process and merged it with some other practices over the last 20 years. And this 5-step, literally step-by-step process to transform that inner dialogue, that inner conversation, to something at the end that is your own words. And at the end, I guess you could call that phrase an affirmation. I don't call it an affirmation, but it is essentially what it is, but it's your own words. It's coming from your own journey. And that work, along with some of the other things, mirror work and tapping and other things that I do, has actually transformed that inner dialogue, the way that I talk to myself. And it takes work and it takes time, but that's where this place of, yeah, I'm really comfortable in my own skin today. And I think that in terms of relationship, that's probably one of the most important things that you can do, is do whatever you need to do to get really comfortable in your own skin.
Because it feels so much better than anything else.
Sure does.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.